All right. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for everyone for joining us, those who are joining us for the first time and those who are returning with us again. We are very happy to be able to offer another session of our Workforce Collaborative Training Series to all of our dedicated providers in the community. Today, we are excited to have Amanda Nobrega, LMSW and Vice President of Programs, Upstate New York for the Alzheimer's Association, with us again to talk about healthy living for your brain and body, tips from the latest research. As you remember, Amanda actually was with us a few months back to do a Healthy Brain 101 training, and we brought her back again to give us some more information. A few quick reminders. At the end of this session, we'll be asking you to complete a very brief evaluation. We hope that you just take a moment to fill us out so we can continue to improve our training series. Our next training session is Tuesday, April 22nd at noon on Cannabis 101, Clear the Haze. And the presenter is Erin Parr from Horizon Health Services. Be on the lookout for registration information, which will be emailed soon. The registration link is also currently available on our website. So if you'd like to register, feel free to go to our website now. And as a note, announcements for our future sessions are both sent out by email, and you can always go to our website for that information as well. The recording and slides from today's presentation will be posted to our website within the next few days and will be available through the end of May. At the end of May, they will come down. The presentations and recordings for our past offerings are posted on our website, and we'd encourage you to check those out as well. Amy and I are continuing to fill our calendar for 2025, and we are interested in hearing what topics and speakers everyone would like to hear from. If you are interested in doing a 1-hour presentation, or if you're interested in a particular topic, please indicate that on your evaluation, or you can email Amy at amy.rockwood@erie.gov. Again, amy.rockwood@erie.gov. This training is being recorded and everyone is muted. I'll be monitoring the chat during the presentation, and Amanda will take questions as we go. So please put any questions you have in the chat box. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'd like to introduce Amanda to talk about healthy living for your brain and body, tips from the latest research. Thank you so much for joining us again, Amanda.
Thank you for having me, Kathleen, and thank you for your help sharing the slides, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you spending your lunch hour with me. My name is Amanda Nobrega, and as Kathleen mentioned, I serve as the Vice President of Programs for the Alzheimer's Association Upstate New York chapters. Our Western New York chapter serves all 8 counties of Western New York. Our office is located in Amherst, but we are in the community all the time. We're grateful for our partners, organizations across the region that provide space for our staff and volunteers to deliver programs like this one, making education and information more accessible. So a little bit about me. I've been with the association, it'll be 11 years in April. I first started as a volunteer and didn't have a personal connection to the disease at the time I started. Now I am unfortunately no longer able to say that. My dad is living with Lewy body dementia, and I am his primary caregiver. So seeing firsthand how this disease impacts, individuals, families, it's strengthened my commitment to raising awareness, sharing resources, and supporting those who are impacted. And I'm very, very excited to talk about healthy living for your brain and body today. We know the importance of taking care of our physical health, but research is continuing to show that brain health is just as important. And as a society, I think we have some work to do in terms of paying attention to our brain health. So this program, we're going to take a look at science-based recommendations on ways that we can support both our physical health and our brain health. As professionals working in mental health, substance abuse, I recognize there's a lot of people from different disciplines on this call. As you're listening, bear in mind not only how these healthy habits apply to your own health, but also how you can help empower the clients and the communities that you serve with this information. As Kathleen mentioned, feel free to drop information in the chat. I'm thinking that I might hold questions until the end just because there is a lot of content to get to. And any questions that I am unable to answer during this time, I will be sure to take a look at them, draft up a response, and send them over to Kathleen and Amy to get them to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Amanda.
Sure. Next slide, please. So by the end of today's talk, you will have a better sense of how lifestyle behaviors impact the brain and overall physical health. You'll learn strategies for making healthier choices in key areas, including the areas that are listed there on the screen. And throughout our time together, we'll talk about some practical tips for each of these areas. Next slide. All right, so let's start by talking about the brain. The brain is the body's command center. It controls everything from our thoughts, our emotions, our movement, our memory. The brain is made up of 100 billion nerve cells called neurons, which form networks like branches of a tree. These networks allow signals to travel throughout the brain. They form those connections to help us think, remember, feel. And just like other parts of the body, the brain can be affected by disease. It can be affected by our lifestyle choices. Alzheimer's disease progressively damages and destroys brain cells. We actually see the brain shrinking due to that cell death. And it typically starts in areas that are responsible for memory and eventually impact critical functions like reasoning and movement. Next slide, please. So we know that what is good for the heart is good for the brain. And research is helping us understand why and how we can use this knowledge to support long-term health overall. So the brain relies on a rich network of blood vessels to receive oxygen, nutrients, all that good stuff. Every time our heart beats, 20 to 25% of the blood goes directly to our brain. So essential nutrients are getting delivered to the brain and oxygen to help keep it healthy. That connection is really important. And it means that taking care of your heart through lifestyle choices like eating healthy, exercising, managing stress can also protect your brain and lower the risk of cognitive decline. Next slide, please. So I want to know, and you can feel free to put this in the chat, your thoughts. Is Alzheimer's a normal part of aging? True or false? I think I saw a couple, lots of falses, some trues. All right. Ready for the answer? I love to see all this movement in the chat. The answer is false. Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Alzheimer's is a progressive and fatal brain disease, meaning that means that symptoms start and then they worsen over time. Eventually, that cell death impacts our brainstem, which is in charge of basic functions like breathing and swallowing. Age is the greatest known factor to develop Alzheimer's disease, but Alzheimer's is not something everyone develops as they get older. There are older adults who, have their cognition intact and never develop Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. Most people with Alzheimer's are over the age of 65, and the risk does increase with age. After the age 65, the risk doubles every 5 years. And by 85, it affects 1 in 3 people. Next slide, please. So the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, there's a lot of these terms get used interchangeably, but it's really important to know the difference. Um, so as we age, it's normal to experience some mild changes in memory or thinking. So misplacing an item, but finding it later. I am notorious for misplacing the remote control and misplacing my keys. I now have an air tag that helps me identify where my keys are, so that I can start my day a little bit less stressed out, just by, relying on my handy dandy phone to help me locate where my keys are. These types of things, if I'm able to retrace my steps and think about where was I, where might my keys be, maybe occasionally I struggle to find the right word. These are age related cognitive changes. And that's different from dementia. Dementia is an all encompassing umbrella term that really captures the different sorts of happenings that can occur as your brain starts to change. So, depending on where the damage is happening in the brain, there could be decline in memory, reasoning, problem solving, personality changes, visuospatial challenges and changes that interfere with daily life. So, dementia is just talking about the general symptoms related to cognitive decline. It is not a disease in and of itself. So, if I came to you and told you that, my loved one was recently diagnosed with cancer, your next question would most likely be, what kind? What type, right? Cancer is not a complete diagnosis, just as dementia is not a complete diagnosis. What disease is causing those dementia symptoms? Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia symptoms, and it affects about 55 million people worldwide. Currently, there is no cure, but there are drug and non-drug treatments that can help manage symptoms. And now we are in this incredible era where we do have FDA approved medications that can actually slow the progression of those brain changes that are happening, giving people a little bit more time in the early stages of disease. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, Alzheimer's dementia is the leading form of dementia symptoms. So we're going to talk specifically about Alzheimer's throughout this program. There are other diseases that cause dementia symptoms, like Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia. There could be mixed dementia, vascular dementia. But for today, we're talking about Alzheimer's disease. So when we think about Alzheimer's, we need to think about it as a continuum. So the changes that occur in the brain, they happen gradually over time. And something that I think is really important is paying attention to that gray and that light blue section, the asymptomatic and the MCI due to Alzheimer's disease. Research has shown that, in the earliest stages of disease, a person can have no outright cognitive symptoms. So nothing presenting as problematic, but inside the brain, changes are happening, those key hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. So beta amyloid plaque and tau tangles are starting to destroy those brain cells 20 years before noticeable symptoms actually appear. So in that mild cognitive impairment phase, that's really where we start to see the first symptoms of cognitive decline appear. But they might not interfere with daily life significantly. And an important thing to note is that not everybody who has mild cognitive impairment or MCI will go on to develop Alzheimer's dementia. But people who do have mild cognitive impairment, they're at higher risk of progressing into the Alzheimer's dementia stages. So it's really important to focus on those areas where intervention can actually help change the trajectory of the disease manifesting itself. And to get an accurate assessment of what's going on, not delaying in talking to your provider about things that are occurring and changes that you're experiencing. You know, mild cognitive impairment, it could be due to Alzheimer's disease. It could be linked to medications. It could be that you're having a side effect to a medication that could be reversible. There are other conditions that should be ruled out, and that, again, can be reversible if caught early and treated. And then as Alzheimer's progresses, symptoms become more severe. And that's where we start to see the mild, moderate, and severe stage. That is typically in the moderate to severe stage. That's typically where we had historically seen people reaching out for support, for information, for guidance. How do I navigate? I'm in the throes, I'm in crisis. My mom is saying that she wants to go home, but she is home and I don't know how to navigate this or deal with it. We need to reach people earlier on. And I'm going to go into several of the reasons why as we continue through this presentation. Next slide. So, focusing on our health, our well-being is going to be really important to have some sort of influence in that space leading up to mild cognitive impairment or in the mild cognitive impairment phase. Our health is influenced by so many factors. Some of them are not in our control, others are. There's genetics, daily choices. There's also the broader social determinants of health, the conditions that influence our health based on where we live, where we work, where we have our recreation, where we play. As we age, as I mentioned before, it's natural to experience certain changes. Gray hair, wrinkles, maybe you need some glasses. However, in each individual, aging looks a little bit different. And those differences are shaped by a lot of different factors, including genetics and our environment. Not every person ages the same. So our genes play a role in how we age. Some families have genes that promote really long lifespans, while others may have higher risk for certain diseases, which can affect health earlier in life. The impact of our environment has a profound impact on our health. So these conditions that shape how we live, how we grow, access to resources like healthcare, education, healthy food, all of that impacts us. Factors like economic stability, access to healthcare, education, built environments, safe spaces for exercise, right? All of that can influence health outcomes. And many of them are beyond our control. But there are ways to advocate for change and create healthy environments for all. And if you're interested in joining us and helping to promote brain health and really looking at how we can increase accessibility to resources, we do have a small work group that's looking at risk reduction strategies in Erie County. So while we can't change our genes, the social determinants of health, we do have control over some of our lifestyle choices. So simple changes like staying physically active, making decisions about nutritious food when we have access to those resources, and finding ways to manage stress can significantly support our brain and heart health, even for those who do have a family history of conditions like dementia or heart disease. So let's move on to the next slide. Your numbers. I will admit, it wasn't until I was in my mid-30s that I even paid attention to any of this. And it is so important to know what your numbers are and to talk to your doctor about what they should be. There are so many strategies that we'll discuss shortly that can help you maintain optimal health, that can help your clients maintain optimal health and support cognitive function. Because again, what we do for our bodies, what we do for our hearts is good for our brain. Next slide. So what the science tells us, a lot of research, there's a growing body of evidence that suggests that many factors that increase the risk of heart disease and stroke also increase the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. There's strong evidence of a connection between midlife high blood pressure and later life dementia. And the evidence also shows that controlling blood pressure can have a significant effect on risk for cognitive decline. Keeping diabetes controlled is also important. Studies have shown an increase in the risk of cognitive decline and possibly dementia among individuals with diabetes. Diabetes has not to this point proven to cause Alzheimer's disease, so there's more research that is being conducted on the correlation. Maintaining a healthy weight is also important. Researchers have found that midlife obesity may also be associated with increased risk of dementia. And, we know that good cholesterol level is good for the heart. And again, what is good for the heart is good for the brain. So don't be like me. Know your numbers, keep an eye on them, and talk with your doctor or another healthcare professional to understand, what your numbers should be, and if they do change, what that means for your overall health. Next slide. So I'm really, really excited that the Alzheimer's Association is taking the lead on the US Pointer study, which is a large-scale clinical trial that focuses on several different modifiable risk factors and, how can we combine them to find that ultimate prescription, if you will, of the best ways to reduce cognitive decline. So this study is looking at combining lifestyle factors like physical activity, nutrition, intellectual engagement, health coaching to test impact on overall brain health, cognitive health. We believe that combining these factors in a structured way can be one of the most effective strategies to delay the onset of mild cognitive impairment and dementia. The Lancet Commission actually had a publication. They recently did an analysis of the data that's out there and found that 40% of dementia cases could potentially be prevented. So that's huge. Currently, we have over 2,000 participants across 5 sites in the United States who are enrolled in US Pointer. The participants are individuals who are at risk for cognitive decline, but at the time that they are enrolled in the study, they are currently cognitively healthy. Many have a family member, a parent, a sibling living with dementia. And what makes this study particularly valuable is its focus on diverse communities across the United States. I'm proud to share that nearly 30% of the population or the participants in the US Pointer study are from historically underrepresented populations. In general, in research, we tend to see much lower percentages, like 10 to 20%. So the research findings of this study will be released this summer at the Alzheimer's Association's International Conference in Toronto. So that is coming, I think it's at the end of July. So stay tuned. I'm sure there'll be a lot of media buzz about the results of this study. And if the interventions prove to be successful, this could mean that we'll have a model for creating accessible community-based programs to help prevent cognitive decline on a large scale. So exciting stuff. Next slide, please. All right, so getting into the meat of it. Today, we're going to explore these important aspects of healthy living that can support both of your body and your brain health. Again, we're going to go into the science. What does the science tell us about how making changes in these areas can impact our overall well-being and our cognitive health? And as I mentioned before, as we go through each topic, think about how you can apply these tips to your own life. Think about what you enjoy, finding activities and habits that feel rewarding to you. If you don't like running, you know, setting a goal for running a marathon, by the end of the month is not realistic. Do something that you enjoy. Make gradual changes. Start small, realistic changes, and start now. It's not too late to begin making healthy choices. And again, I would encourage you to think about this information and not only apply it to your own life and think about how you're going to apply it to your own life, those that you care for as well, but also your clients. Next slide. Sleep. Sleep is essential for overall resting, recharging, but also maintaining healthy blood pressure and helping to control diabetes. Next slide, please. Inadequate sleep, whether it's from conditions like insomnia or sleep apnea, it can lead to memory and thinking difficulties. Sleep apnea in particular is a condition where breathing stops and restarts repeatedly during sleep, and that can have a really significant impact on cognitive function. So if you have a loved one who tells you that you're snoring really loudly in the middle of the night, or you find that you're waking up in the middle of the night from your own, snoring and breathing, it would be a good idea to connect with your doctor about it, because addressing and getting good sleep can really help ensure that your brain is as healthy as possible. We know that adults should aim for 6 hours of rest each night. Some factors like disruptions from others, environmental noise can make getting enough sleep challenging, or maybe there's work stress running through your mind and you can't turn the to-do list off, or maybe home stress. It's tough, but it is important to focus on sleep quality whenever possible, not just quantity. So considering, your own sleep, do you sleep enough? Do you get quality sleep? What kind of environment helps you sleep best? How could you initiate some changes that could help create a more peaceful sleep setting? And how do we minimize disruptions to rest? One thing that is important to know is that getting enough sleep is crucial, so that, 6 hours, but getting too much sleep can negatively impact your health. So research does suggest that consistently sleeping more than 9 hours a night may be linked to increased risk of cognitive decline. So finding that sweet spot between the 6 and 9 hours is important, and exploring and seeing what might work for you in terms of making a good environment where you are getting that quality sleep is important. Next slide, please. So here are just a couple questions to think about. You can consider, minimizing disruptions. If you really have been noticing that you're having trouble sleeping, maybe separating or finding another room to sleep in that's a separate space from others, like a partner, pets, family members, all of that could be an option if it's accessible to you. Adjusting your routine, setting different bedtimes, turning off TV, phones, turning off notifications by a certain time to help your brain and body unwind. So think about what works for you. There's free meditation apps that are available. I know that there's paid ones as well. One that I am fond of because it is free and accessible is Insight Timer. That one has a lot of resources that are guided meditations and other different sorts of self-care considerations and tools. And again, the app is free. Next slide. Controlling room temperature, turning off screens, all of these tips If you do frequently experience sleep problems or think you may have sleep apnea, again, please speak with a healthcare professional for guidance and treatment options. And I will invite folks, after each of these little segments in the chat, if you feel compelled, if there have been any challenges that you've had related to these lifestyle factors, anything that you've faced with sleep and issues with sleep, and any helpful adjustments you've made to improve your sleep quality, this could be a great opportunity to exchange ideas. So feel free to enter your experiences in the chat. If you do have any tips that may be helpful for others who are here listening in, it's a great opportunity to share. Next slide. So the next key consideration here is smoking. We know that research shows smoking increases the risk of cognitive decline. And the benefits, of quitting smoking include lower risk of heart attack, stroke, lung disease, better blood circulation, and also avoiding exposing others to secondhand smoke. Quitting smoking can reduce a person's chance of developing cognitive decline. And if you currently smoke, think about what could help you stop. If you don't smoke, what's helped you stay smoke-free? Resources that are available online in your community. If anybody has smoking cessation information resources, again, feel free to place them in the chat. And know that quitting can be really, really difficult. And finding support and talking with your doctor or another healthcare professional is really important. Next slide. All right. And next slide. I kind of breezed through that. So again, think about what could help you stop smoking or stay smoke-free. And hopefully there are folks who are entering some resources in the chat regarding available tools, resources, services in our community. Next slide. And we have our fun Post-it notes. All right, next slide. So the next area that I want to talk about is taking care of your mental health. And this is, really important. I know a lot of us who are here together are helping professionals. You may have a lot on your plate, whether you're caring for others, managing a really heavy workload, navigating life's never-ending, unexpected challenges. All of that can be really rewarding, but it's really demanding, and taking good care of our mental health is extremely important. Paying attention to our stress levels, right? Signs of anxiety, depression, other mental health concerns that arise. These not only affect our overall emotional well-being, but they can impact the health of our brain. Talking with your doctor about how you're feeling physically, mentally, it's important to be proactive about your health, especially when you're constantly focused on others. All right. Next slide, please. Again, factoring in those healthy habits to find what works, to give you a good balance, to take time to engage in things that bring you joy, bring you peace, even taking a breath, right? So next slide. As we talk about the importance of taking care of our mental health, again, take a moment, reflect on your own self-care strategies. What are some self-care practices that help you manage stress, that help you prioritize your mental health? Please enter those in the chat. I think that it's not a one size fits all, right? But as many ideas as we can help one another generate, that could be beneficial. We may see something that works for someone that may be of interest to us that we haven't thought about before. So integrating these ideas, these simple steps can truly be life-changing, even if it is scheduling 3 minutes on your calendar to breathe, right? All right, next slide, please. Here are some tips, some ideas. Take a nap, go for a walk, sing a song. If you like karaoke, that's always fun. Books, what brings you joy? This is about you. Next slide. All right. The next area I want to talk about is getting moving, staying physically active. And this is an area where there is really, really quite a bit of research on how physical activity affects our brains and helps keep us as healthy as possible. Next slide, please. So we know that consistent physical activity is associated with lower risk of cognitive decline. Some researchers say that if people had to choose out of everything that we talk about today, one thing to do to improve your brain functioning, it should be this. So we know that physical activity may directly benefit brain cells by increasing that blood and oxygen flow to the brain. And it may also reduce other risk factors, such as high blood pressure and diabetes, that put us at even higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. Researchers believe that exercise should be on the more vigorous side, and hopefully with those results from the US Pointer study, we will have a better sense of, at what level of rigor, what are some good physical interventions that can get us to that level. Hopefully there will be more information on that very soon. Anything that really gets your heart pumping, right? That's going to help get the blood flow up to the brain and getting all those good nutrients and oxygen there. There isn't a single recipe for what works best yet, but again, research is emerging, and I think we're really at an exciting time to hopefully have some more specific answers soon. Next slide. So think about, what activities do you want to try? How can you make time for physical activity in your day? Is there someone, an accountability partner, who can join you, a colleague, a friend? I heard one colleague say this the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I should incorporate this in. But she was talking about how she, whenever possible, likes to have walking meetings. It helps her not only avoid all of the pings and the emails and all the stuff, right? It helps her be present with that person that she's having the meeting with, and they're getting active, they're walking, they're getting their blood flowing. I understand that may not be accessible all the time, but just thinking about, how can I take some small steps periodically to get moving? So if you have any tips, I welcome you to put them in the chat. Starting small is really important. Incorporating small changes into your routine, taking the stairs more often, getting off the bus at a stop earlier, walking around your neighborhood. The more fun it's going to be for you, the more you're going to want to do it. If you don't like doing something, don't have it be an area that you're trying to pursue. And again, invite others to join you. Sometimes having that other person makes it easier for you to follow through. Next slide, please. Here are some of the tips. And moving on to the next slide. This is an area that we often get a lot of questions about. Eating healthy. It's no surprise really that what we're putting in our bodies, what we're eating is going to have an impact on our overall health and on our brain. And again, that brain heart connection, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. And this extends to the foods we eat. Our diet here in the United States of America, we tend to eat a lot of ultra processed foods. Research shows that consuming more than 20% of your daily caloric intake from super processed foods is linked to a 28% faster decline in global cognitive scores. A 28% faster decline. And ultra processed foods make up about half of our typical American diet, which is concerning given the impact on our brain health. Next slide, please. So again, we know that healthy food fuels the body and benefits brain function. Eating a well-balanced diet can also reduce the risk of heart disease, cancer, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, stroke, diabetes. There are many options that are out there, and a lot of opinions on the best ways to eat for optimal health, right? There are two diets that really stands out in terms of the research. And next slide, please. Those are the DASH diet, the dietary approaches to stop hypertension, and the Mediterranean diet. What do these diets include? Incorporating more whole foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats can support your health, your brain health. Community gardens, empowering people to safely grow their own food when that is an option. Programs like that in our community are really, really important and, can have a significant impact on what people are able to consume that has an impact on their brain and overall body health. All right. Next slide. Thank you. Making changes to eating can be hard though. So I'm looking to hear from all of you in the chat. Feel free to add any tips, tricks, anything that's worked for you in terms of incorporating some healthy changes into your eating habits, into your diet. Thinking about ways that you could cook differently to make meals healthier. What healthy foods could you swap in? What new foods would you be willing to try? Some tips, if we go to the next slide. Using olive oil instead of butter. Olive oil is a healthier fat. It can be used in many cooking situations. Opting for sodium-free spices or flavorings instead of using salt. So experimenting with herbs, spices, lemon juice to enhance flavor. Don't add extra salt when cooking rice, pasta, hot cereal. These foods can be flavorful without adding the extra sodium. When looking at food labels, it can be really overwhelming. Take a look at the low sodium or no salt added options when looking at packaged foods in particular. And focus on what you can add to your diet, not just remove. So, what could I add for my breakfast? If I have an on-to-go quick thing, could I also add a fruit? Something that is going to be high in protein, like nuts. Whatever it is, what could I potentially add to that can be helpful for me? Choosing plain, fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables, avoiding those with added sauces and extra sodium. Building meals around vegetables, beans, whole grains, and then, choosing fresh or frozen poultry, fish, lean cuts of meats. All right, next slide. Vitamins and supplements. This is a question that we get a lot. There are many vitamins and supplements available over the counter today. You could walk into any, drugstore and you'll see a bunch of different options that are there to promote overall health, brain health in particular. It's really important that in if you are looking at a supplement, or if you know that one of your clients or a family member, have a conversation with your doctor. Encourage them to have a conversation with their doctor. Vitamins and supplements can interact with medications. It's really important to consult with your physician before adding anything in. And supplements are not regulated like drugs in the United States. So the FDA does not regulate these supplements that are available over the counter. Next slide, please. Cognitive engagement is another key area. Staying engaged, keeping our minds active. Anything that uses your mind in a challenging way, learning something new, can have good benefits for your brain. Next slide. So, engaging in something that's mentally stimulating encourages that blood flow to the brain. Engaging in activities that are stimulating and challenging can help you maintain or even improve your cognition, your cognitive abilities. Education plays an important role. Classroom-based learning, especially led by trained educators, and it doesn't need to be, in a academic institution where you're pursuing a degree. It could be a community-based program where you're learning something new. That is really, really helpful in keeping the brain engaged, mentally stimulated, and can help reduce the risk of developing dementia. Some researchers believe that when we're learning something new, we're creating new pathways in our brain, more tree branches, right? That creates more robust of a network of communication pathways between our brain cells. So that could enhance cognitive resilience, if you will. Next slide. We talked about that, and I know that we're running a little bit short, so I'm going to next slide it, please. Challenging yourself. Think about new hobbies or skills that you want to learn. I will disclose that probably for 10 years, I've been talking about, man, it would be great to go out in the winter time and to, do skiing or do snowboarding and get active, because I am definitely one of those people who will stay in, will want to eat all the comfort foods and just watch all the TV, right? Stream all of the shows. And it's really not good for my health. And so, one thing that I did end up doing this year was challenging myself and my spouse decided we're going to stop just talking about wanting to get out and doing winter sports, and we're gonna actually take a lesson and learn. And it was really great to be able to learn something new with a loved one. So I encourage you to think about, what hobbies or skills you could potentially incorporate in to your lives. And it doesn't have to be anything that's super extravagant or expensive, or, think about what would work for you. Next slide, please. Again, some tips: take a class, community center, learn a new skill or topic, try a new cooking technique. You could watch a YouTube video about a recipe that's of the Mediterranean diet, or maybe the DASH diet. Try something new. Maybe challenge yourself to learn a new language. Revamp a piece of furniture you found on the side of the road. Whatever it is, tapping into your creativity and challenging yourself is important. Sometimes people ask about crossword puzzles, jigsaws, all of that. It's not just about completing a jigsaw puzzle, completing a crossword to manage stress. It's really about actively solving problems and thinking ahead when we talk about this engagement. So, playing chess is an example where you're considering your opponent's next move and you're trying to adapt your strategy. So, it's that extra level of thinking ahead and being strategic about plans. That is really what we're talking about here. Next slide, please. And I believe that this is the last key consideration, which is staying connected. There is research that shows that connecting with others may support brain health. Those who are regularly engaged with others tend to have reduced rates of mortality and disability. I think COVID was a clear example and very real to us all that people don't do well in isolation, right? Um, when we feel isolated, that really does have a tremendous detrimental impact on our health. When people feel connected to other people, they tend to make healthier choices in other parts of their lives. Next slide, please. All right, and next slide. So again, I would encourage you to put in the chat different ways that you stay connected with others. Is there anything, any clubs, groups that are available in the community that others may be interested in that you want to let people know about? Feel free to put that in the chat. Next slide. So staying connected. There's a lot of different ways to maintain social connections. An example, volunteering for a cause that matters to you. Scheduling regular phone calls, video chats to keep in touch with loved ones. Even if you have to, again, add it to your calendar, block off on a Friday evening or Saturday morning. I'm going to make calls to my friends, to my family. I'm going to check in with them. Having that person-to-person connection is important, and I'm going to make it a priority. Visiting with friends and family and getting involved in the community. Again, volunteering is a fantastic way to stay socially connected while also maybe learning something new and doing good in your community. At the association, shameless plug, we're always looking for volunteers to help deliver education programs just like this one. It's a great way to stay engaged and to make a meaningful impact. So if you're interested in learning about volunteer opportunities or the ways to get involved in our mission in general, please feel free to reach out. I have contact info at the end of the presentation. Next slide. All right, so recapping. Key principle, what's good for your heart is good for your brain. There are elements to healthy living for your brain and your body, including getting quality sleep, being smoke-free, taking care of your mental health, being physically active and eating healthy, and challenging yourself, learn something new, stay socially connected. All of these factors have benefits for brain health, and I'm really, really excited that we'll be hearing more about that US Pointer study in July. Next slide, please. I want to make sure that you know we have available 11x7 Take Charge of Your Brain Health posters that you can display if you have an office, if you are serving members of the community and you're interested in one of these posters. You can feel free to email program.wny@alz.org. Again, that's program.wny@alz.org, and I'll be happy to get you one of these posters. And we have them available in English and Spanish. Next slide, please. I also want to make sure that you're aware of the different ways the Alzheimer's Association can help, whether it's getting information on what the warning signs are, what is age-related change versus something that may be more problematic. If you are in the throes of caregiving yourself and you need someone to talk to, we are here 24/7. If you've recently been diagnosed, right, we are here for you. So that 1-800 number on the screen, you call it, you'll get connected to a dementia specialist or a licensed clinician to help guide you through whatever it is you're facing and connect you with resources. We have a robust website, as well as various program offerings across the 8 counties of Western New York. Next slide. On the left-hand side here, you'll see an image of our community programs and services booklet. We have this booklet comes out quarterly. If you're interested in having some available for your clients, again, you can email me. That email will be at the end of the presentation. We'd be happy to make sure that you have those available. And I also wanted to draw your attention to an upcoming conference that is going to be on April 4th. Focusing on aging with Down syndrome, intellectual development disabilities, and the intersection between cognitive decline. So there's a QR code if you want to scan that. And next slide. Questions. We have 3 minutes. Again, I am happy to answer any questions. If we don't get to them, I will write something up and make sure that Amy and Kathleen get it over to you.
There was a lot of great comments and in the chat in regards to a lot of things you were having people chime in about nutrition and self-care and self-help tips and things like that. There was a question earlier that I'm going back to, and it was about early detection. Tara had a question in regards to if there is any testing available to show if you may then in the future develop Alzheimer's or dementia.
That's a great question. And yes, so we are in a period of time where researchers are looking at different biomarkers. So similar to like testing your blood sugar and knowing that you have diabetes, based on the levels of your blood sugar, we are at a point where we are able to, right now it's in clinical trials and in certain clinic settings, use a blood test to see if there are elevated hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease showing up in your blood work. So that beta amyloid. There's also PET scans that can pick up on beta amyloid. There's also scans that are coming that are available that can look at the tau in your brain. Really, I would say at this point, having a comprehensive diagnosis is going to be incredibly important. So family history, making sure that lab work is done, blood test, urinalysis, ruling out, if there is something going on, otherwise medically. Maybe your thyroid levels are off, or maybe you have untreated depression and anxiety, and that's impacting your cognitive well-being. And then, working with the provider to also do a neurological psychiatric exam, and folding in some of those biomarker tests as well. Again, more information on blood tests is going to be available. Those tests are being used in clinical studies right now and in certain diagnostic settings. Quest, I believe, and some other labs have offers for people to access that. I would caution that, having a lab test done, a blood test done, it really needs to be in conjunction with a specialist, and being able to analyze, what does this mean for me? So just exercise caution, talk to your doctor. If you have concerns, we have information on our website about how to get a diagnosis, all the different steps, or you can call that 1-800 number and we're happy to walk you through it.
Do you have time for one more question, Amanda?
Sure.
I will just note for those jumping off, Amy did put in the chat box the link to our evaluation. So if you just take a quick minute and fill out those few brief questions. She also did post the link for our registration for our April session as well. So please take a few minutes to look at those. A question that came in from Christopher, do you know where individuals who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's can link for counseling services?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, there isn't like one particular provider. We usually link people to the information and the resources on like Psychology Today. And providers may indicate that they, specialize in providing counseling and support to those who are living with a diagnosis. Really, calling around, seeing if there's a good fit, asking those questions is going to be important. If you're looking for general guidance, emotional support, connection to resources, again, we do have that 24/7 helpline where individuals can call anytime, day or night, holiday, 3 a.m, snowstorm, doesn't matter. And there's a licensed clinician on the other end who can walk you through whatever you're going through. We employ a solution focused brief therapy approach. So, it's not like ongoing case management or ongoing clinical counseling, but that on demand support is there.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. Great presentation and so much information that we can all use. Again, Amy did put the evaluation link in the chat box. The recording and slides for today's presentation will be posted to our webpage within the next couple days. The link for our April session is in the chat as well, or take a look at our website. And as always, if you're interested in being a presenter, please let Amy know, or if you have ideas for topics you'd like to learn more about, let us know that too.
Thank you all so much for your time, and thank you, Amy and Kathleen, for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Amanda.
Take care.